So what you're going to do now is you're going to work on some watercolor techniques before we do our main project. You're going to need a watercolor pan, water, 2 brushes, a paper towel, and some salt. So what you're going to do first is take your small round brush. You're going to paint the tree with just water, okay? So it should be like kind of glossy and glistening. You want the water to stay inside the lines. Now you're going to dot the tree with 2 colors. I'm using black and brown. You're not making them too dark, and you're just using dots. You're not really painting, you're just kind of dotting it in, and it'll become textured. Then what you're going to do is the next one, you're going to use wet on wet, and you're going to use analogous colors. So what I'm doing right here is I am painting water, and then I am dotting on the liquid watercolor. So I'm putting a little bit of water in the watercolor pan, and I'm using analogous colors to, and they will blend slowly throughout the day while they're drying. So I'm not going to do anything. So now I'm doing it again. I'm doing a wet on wet watercolor, and you can see they're kind of almost like tie-dye flowing into each other, and I'm sprinkling a little bit of salt on them. The salt's going to create a texture. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do wet on dry. This is the more traditional watercolor. So I'm going to just wet a little bit of watercolor in the pan, but I just paint on the dry paper. So you can see that I'm using the top of the pan to mix my watercolors. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try dry brush, and that is where I am painting and I'm drying off the brush mostly on the paper towel, and I'm using a dry brush. This next one that I'm doing is I am mixing in 2 analogous colors. So I'm starting with green, and then I'm slowly mixing more and more blue in with it, so I can make all these different colors between green and blue, just in case I need those. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix opposite colors. So I'm going to start with the yellow, and I'm going to mix the yellow in the top of the pan, and I'm going to get all of these really cool like off-color earth tone yellows and greens while I move towards the color purple. So in the very middle, when you mix 2 opposite colors on the color wheel, it makes kind of a brown, which is actually kind of pretty. And then we're going to slowly go towards a purpley black. Now I want to just show you a few little finishing things. So I'm just going with plain water and the tip of the paintbrush to just kind of smear and smooth. Now my paint is all dry. Okay, I do not do any kind of pencil work until the paper has completely dried. If I don't, the paper will break and you'll make a hole. So you want to make sure, so it's been dry, it's been a few hours in this video, and I'm just creating some little highlights and little textures. And I'm just showing you a few different little things you can do. I'm using a chalk pastel, and I'm using a blending to sort of blend in to create just a different textures. And now I'm using, you can also use pen and ink. So I'm using the pen to sort of create more detail. And you can also use a white pen over this dried watercolor. So you can see that I'm kind of neatening it up. I'm adding those little different shades. The watercolor, the salt on the other leaf has dried to create some kind of a texture. And you can really do a lot at this stage. I kind of consider it halfway done. You can also do things like outline it or color on the outside with a marker. I'm using a gold marker, and so there's just a lot of different things to do at that point, but I want you to make sure that you get all of these skills done.